letter since the judge isn't in there yet?
Is he sitting there in the front?
Yeah.
What they gave it in other day?
It's the two suspects and Kamille, McKinney, Cupcake.
They started trial today.
He's not right here. When they present their evidence, they go forward.
They shouldn't even have that.
Nope. Can you get anything?
Get hurt. If he gets out of that.
See if you can grab something with my phone. You're taller than I
Just want a picture of you.
am. Yeah, just something that shows the courtroom.
It's gonna be like that because
Yeah.
the door, well, with white walls.
Right.
Is that the play?
Yes.
Okay, so that is.
Apparently he's sitting up in front to the left. I can't see him.
Okay, so he's sitting in front of the left, I can't
Any comments?
You're dragging your cable.
Blocking the hallway, excuse me.
First of all, say and spell your first and last name.
Derrick, D-E-R-R-I-C-K, Collins, C-O-L-L-I-N-S.
Okay, and
Right.
just, you were just appointed to represent Patrick Stallworth. Have you spoken with him prior, or?
Yes, I already represent him on the child pornography cases. I was appointed to represent him on those cases maybe a week ago. So we already have a relationship established. I think that's why he wanted me to represent him on the capital murder case.
This is a tough case, high-profile case. How are you feeling about it right now?
Well, I feel pretty good. I'm used to high-profile cases. I think 4 months out of practice, I had one of Birmingham's biggest high-profile capital murder cases.
Right.
So, and along the way, I've had some high-profile cases. But you know, they're all tough because you have to deal with the community, the public, and public opinion. So, they
You
can
know, a
be
lot
tough.
of people were hesitant to take this case and wouldn't take this case. What makes you willing to do this?
Well, this is what I do. This is what I swore an oath to do. And I've handled death penalty cases and capital murder cases for 20 years now. So it's what I do. So I didn't hesitate to do what I've been trained to do and what I like doing, and most of all, protecting the rights of defendants that are charged with serious crimes.
How is Mr. Stallworth handling everything?
Well, it's a bad situation for him, like it would be for anyone else. He's very distraught. He's just confused, kind of, you know, trying to accept the situation that he's in and learning to try to deal with it from where he's at.
So you would say his mindset is what? Just
I don't know. It's just he's not himself, of course, and he wants to defend himself. He wants to defend himself. He talks about defending himself. So, but he's emotional.
the fact that the public defender asked that Derrick Brown's case, the preliminary hearing be held separately, indicates there's going to be some division there between the couple. Anything you can say about that?
Well, from what I've heard myself, that she's made a statement against Mr. Stallworth.
Right.
And usually preliminary hearings are not separated like that. So that was a hard request that they were asking. But the preliminary hearings will be heard together. Now, as far as trial, they'll probably be tried separately since there was a statement made against the other. So.
What's the biggest challenge for you in defending this case?
Well, we've got a lot of work to do. That's the biggest challenge at this point. A lot of work and investigating and coming up with our strategy for a defense. And I think the biggest thing will be at trial of the public's opinion. There's so many facts that are false or embellished, and that's going to be our biggest problem, is overcoming the taint of the community, which will, be the jury ultimately. So
that was going to be my question. Do you think, given the amount of attention that this has already received, that your client, Patrick Stallworth, can and will receive a fair trial in this area?
Well, if you look at the public opinion, it seems he's already been convicted at this point. A lot of people, they hear things and by the charge alone and the fact that a young child is deceased, people, want to come to an opinion and they want someone to pay for it, be responsible. But necessarily because someone is charged doesn't mean that they're guilty. And in this country, everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And that's how we want the public to view it, because that is the law.
As your
You
client
thought about
said,
asking for a change of venue?
Well, I've considered that, but I'm going to consider it more now that I'm officially on the capital murder case. But that is an option to pursue, and we're going to think about that. And then there's a question of whether he can get a fair trial anywhere in the state, because this case is so publicized that it may be the same in Florence, Alabama, as it is here. They may have the same sentiment. So,
has your client said to you that he's innocent?
well, I don't like to get into what my client has told me, but I'm going to say yes, he did tell me he's innocent. So that's why he wants to defend himself. And he's presumed innocent by the law.
What's the next step in the process for you? What are you working on right now?
Well, what we'll do, we'll start investigating. I've got capital murder cases, when the death penalty is at stake, it's required to have 2 attorneys. So I've got to find an assistant attorney to help me with the case, file a motion for discovery, and then prepare for the preliminary hearing, which the preliminary hearing, the state must put on enough evidence to satisfy probable cause, that more probable than not that a crime was committed and that Mr. Starworth committed. Now, that's a very low burden and a very easy burden for the state to prove. So a lot of times it's not that hard for the state to get an indictment on a person or probable cause to be found at the preliminary hearing stage. So, but we're going to prepare for that. And usually in preliminary hearings, we're trying to find out information that we don't know from the discovery or the paperwork, and also kind of lock some witnesses into their statements so they won't be able to change them later at trial.
Based upon your conversations with Patrick Stallworth, what would he say to the public right now?
That he's not guilty, that he wants everyone to follow the law and give him his presumption of innocence, and let this case be tried in the courtroom and not the courtroom of public opinion, and not public opinion try the case, but that he be given a fair trial in a courtroom where there's competent evidence.
What have you said about Derek Brown?
I won't get into that. He had a relationship with her. I think they were together for a little over a year, so I would kind of consider that somewhat of a long-term relationship. So that's the extent that I'll go to with that. They were in a relationship together for about a little over a year.
Just so we have, when's the next preliminary hearing? The
You
next
said
hearing?
December the 4th.
December 4th, is that?
10th. I'm going to tell you here shortly. The 10th, December the 10th.
Yeah. Do you have a car?
Yes, I got a car. I brought my car. Usually I don't have a car.
You can come on through. Come on through. That's fine.
Thank you, sir.
This is
I'm the car guy.
okay. I said it. Me too. Thank you,
By the elevator? On the red? No, to Carol.
That came out in reference to the Kamille McKinney case. The judge in this case, Judge Clyde Jones, issued a gag order on this case, which is pretty important. And let me explain the why he did it, what the rationale is, and what happens next. I'm attorney Eric Gusfield with the Gusfield Law Firm, and of course, like I always do, I don't like to ramble, so I'm going to get straight to the point so that everyone knows what's going on with this case, so that I can explain to you what's really happening, because the street's talking and typically they don't know what the heck they're talking about. Judge Clyde Jones, who's a well-respected judge, is handling this murder in his courtroom. Judge Jones, people have asked about Judge Jones, and I'll tell you this. I trained under Judge Jones when I was a brand new lawyer. A judge who's now Judge Shantae Owens was in his courtroom, and we were both, she was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney. He trained me. So when you see me talk on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC about cases, a lot of things I talk about are things that I experienced in his courtroom. Well respected, he knows his stuff. And again, I want to give a little background information so that you'll understand who this guy is. I respect him a lot. I didn't always agree with him because we would fight. I was a defense attorney, so I didn't always agree with him, but he's great. Now, to the point about this particular case. A gag order was issued in this case telling the prosecution and the defense, do not talk to media, don't make statements. This case, in reference to Cupcake, Kamille McKinney, her death, it's a media frenzy. Everyone has theories, people on Facebook Live doing things. I'm explaining things on Facebook Live. But what the judge wants to do is preserve the integrity of the trial. The judge in this case, Judge Clyde Jones, wants to make sure that he limits all of the media attention, all of the things that defense attorneys, we will do. We put things in the media spin. We would talk about things. He wants to make sure that those things are contained where people don't talk about the case, which could taint the jury pool. Because what the judge wants to do is make sure that the jury pool is preserved and these two people can get a fair trial. Regardless of what you think about them. You say, oh man, they got to be guilty or whatever. The judge's job is to make sure that justice is served, whatever justice is. So he wants to make sure that the defense is not going out there and saying this person said this, or this was good, the evidence is going to show. He doesn't want the prosecution to be making statements saying these two people are guilty, so we have to find them guilty. So you have to make they have to be extremely careful about those things, and that's why the judge issued that gag order. Nothing beyond that. And keep in mind, the preliminary hearing is set December 10th at 9 o'clock in Judge Jones' courtroom. I doubt Judge Jones would allow cameras to broadcast the trial. I'm not sure. This has a lot of national interest, but what Judge Jones wants to do is make sure that everyone gets a fair trial. He wants to make sure the prosecution gets a fair trial. Judge Jones wants to make sure that the defense gets a fair trial, and he's a very tough judge. He's one of the toughest ones in the courthouse. So as new developments occur, I will make sure that I share the information with you. I had a couple people who tagged me about the gag order, which I did not know that there was a gag order issued until someone told me, because I'm not involved in the case. I have my own 400, 500 cases that we're working on. So I did not know what was going on with that particular case, but they tagged me and asked me to explain what is going on with the gag order. All right, that's all I have today. When new developments occur, then I will inform you. I will educate you. That's my job, is to educate you. Outside of me being your lawyer, when something happens to you, I want my people and my community to be educated about cases and educated about the legal system, so that you don't just run off the Facebook lawyers and Facebook folks over there typing, saying stuff. They don't know what the heck they're talking about in many instances, but that's why I want to educate you. All right, you all have a great night. Share this video with your friends.